I deserve respect. Who I am matters. I don't know about you, but for me, I learned that this world can be a bully in my early 20s. Yes, I experienced many things as a child, and during that time, I wasn't able to assert myself firmly. You know, when you're in that child state or that childlike state, it's hard to defeat or even approach the bullies that are before you. So when I got into my early 20s, I realized that this world can be a big bully. The people in this world can be huge bullies. And I was like, it's not something that I'm willing to take anymore in my life. And it was very hard for me to come to that decision, but it was very critical because if I did not learn to assert myself firmly, if I didn't learn the power or the value of no, the world was going to keep pounding me into the pavement. And that was not something that I wanted because I matter and my voice matters and what I bring to the table matters. So for me, standing up for myself taught me that it's more than just an act of courage. It's a fundamental skill that brings many, many, many benefits. I cannot stress that enough. For instance, standing up for myself taught me the power of boundaries, and that when you set boundaries firmly, your people that are around you will either adhere to those boundaries, or the bullies that are around you, shall I say, will either adhere to those boundaries or remove themselves. And the people that remove themselves aren't your people. So that's something else that I learned. But standing up for yourself is very important. Research proves that standing up for yourselves allow you to maintain certain things like self-respect and communication or effective communication, and it helps you establish healthy boundaries. That's the importance of being able to say, hey, you know what? That doesn't work for me. It may work for you, but for me, that doesn't work. Or I don't agree with that. Believe it or not, a lot of people have a hard time saying no or saying that I don't agree. That doesn't work for me. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of being on an island alone. They want to fit in because let's face it, it's scary being the outsider, but it's also important being the outsider. Being different in a good way, let me stress that, in a good way is good because it says that you have your own mind and you think for yourself. You dare think for yourself in the world that tell us that it's not okay right now to think for ourselves, in a world that is telling us that we must agree or we'll be canceled. So it's very, very important to think for yourself. But another important thing about being able to stand up for yourself is that it teaches you that you matter. You deserve respect. You deserve to be heard. Who you are and what you have to bring to the table matters. When you learn to assert yourself in that little crevice that so many people are trying to tell you that you don't fit in, when you learn to assert yourself into that crevice, a whole new world opens up for you. It reminds me of one of my most favorite quotes in the world. It says, "He who is brave is free." That's by Seneca. So in other words, it's saying one who finds the courage to say and do what is right sets themselves free. You set yourself apart from the rest of society that's following the norm, even though what they call normal may be abnormal. That is so powerful. Even though what they call normal may be abnormal, when you're able to stand up for yourself and set yourself free, you really are free. But it's not always easy for many people out there in the world. It's not easy at all. And like I said, it's not easy because naturally as humans, we want to be included, right? We don't want to be set apart from the group. Humans naturally have that group mentality. It's like a form of safety or a safety net. So to be able to step outside of that safety net and do what you know is right takes a lot of courage. It takes being able to stand up for yourself and say, that doesn't work for me. I am willing to be an outsider, even if it makes you upset or even if you don't like me. Because that is strength, my friends. And that is so important in the society that we're living in today. So when you set yourself free and when you find the courage to stand up for yourself, you not only increase your confidence, because this is what it does. Standing up for yourself, it almost puts a cape on the back of you, right? We become Superman or Superwoman for a moment because it increases our confidence. When you stand up for yourself, you strengthen your worth and boost your self-esteem. This is not something that I'm saying. Solid, firm research proves this. When you stand up for yourself, you strengthen not just your worth, but you also boost your self-esteem. That's something that we all need. That's a benefit that anybody would like. You also help fortify your relationships, both current and new relationships. So clear communication helps you understand your needs and lead to more harmonious interactions. So you're not having complicated relationships because, like I said, if you set boundaries and those people that are in your space, they choose not to abide by your boundaries and who you are and your expectations of how they should be treating you, if they remove themselves, they were never your people. They also help you, or setting boundaries or standing up for yourself also helps you reduce stress. And who does not need to reduce stress in the times that we're living in? We all know that stress is not good for the heart, especially for women, for men too, but especially for women, because heart disease is one of the leading causes of death for women. So stress is not something that's needed, but you will be surprised when you learn to stand up for yourself or assert yourself properly. You will see a reduction in your stress, because addressing issues head on prevents them from festering within. So there are some powerful benefits to being able to stand up to the bullies of life. But the real question remains, how do I find the courage to stand up for myself? And the first thing that you have to do, or you have to understand or know, is your worth. You have to know your worth, because understanding your value is the first step towards assertiveness. And this requires you to reflect on your strengths and achievements. And it also requires you to remember that you have the right to be treated with respect. So that's very, very, very critical that you understand that you are worthy of being treated with respect. So respect yourself, and other people too shall respect you. But first you have to know that you're worthy of respect. Step 2, communicate clearly. Now this is going to ruffle some feathers, because we know that effective communication and speaking the truth is known to ruffle feathers. It's known to cause conflict, even though it's the truth. And the reason being is because when you start standing up for yourself, when you start communicating effectively and demanding respect, people aren't going to like the new you. So those that were disrespecting you in the beginning will no longer like this new version of you. And that's okay, because it's not for them to like, it's for you to love. So communicate clearly by using I statements. So in other words, say things like, I feel undervalued, instead of you make me feel undervalued. You see the difference? I feel undervalued when, opposed to you make me feel undervalued when. So whenever we say things like you, that sounds like we're accusing someone of doing something. So these types of statements, these types of I statements help you communicate openly, honestly, and clearly. They also help you express your feelings the same. Step 3, set boundaries. This is so important. Now, setting boundaries is going to require you to say the word no. And that's very, very hard for people to say, because you don't want to disappoint others, especially if you have a good and kind and pure heart. You don't want to disappoint others. Saying no is a 2-letter word, but you think it has 1,000 letters in it. You think it's one of the most complicated words to say. I mean, it is. But when it comes to grammar, you think it's one of the most complicated words to say in the dictionary, but it's not. But for many, to utter the word no is extremely difficult. And it's solely because you don't want to hurt someone, or you think you're going to hurt their feelings, or you don't want to feel like you're not participating. But you learn to say no without feeling guilty. It helps you set clear boundaries and also help others understand what is acceptable for you and what is not. So when you learn to say no without feeling guilty, it allows you to set clear boundaries, and it helps those around you understand what you accept and what you don't. That's why it's so important to practice the art of saying no. And the last step, step 4, be consistent. Don't start something and then stop. Because when we do that, that shows those big bullies that we were never serious. It was just something we were practicing for a moment. It kind of almost gives them a pass to come back and bully us worse. And that's not something that we need or want. So consistency is key when it comes to being able to stand up for yourself, when it comes to asserting yourself. Consistency is key. And that simply means to stand by your boundaries and values, even if it's difficult, because it's going to be difficult. In the beginning, it's going to be difficult because you're going to be worried about whose feelings you may or may not hurt. So it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but my friend, you are strong enough to get through that time frame of it feels easy sometimes and it's extremely difficult sometimes. You're strong enough to get through that playing field and make it to the other side where having boundaries and values are consistent. So over time, if you are consistent, people will respect your stance. I promise you. It's not just something that I'm saying, it's something that I practice, something that I have experienced. If you are consistent in your boundaries and your values, people will respect the new you. If they don't, they are not your people. If they don't respect who you are and your boundaries, they are not your people. And so this one reminds me of my own personal story because, like I said, in my early 20s, I struggled with being able to say certain things to certain people. And I had to come to a point and realize that, you know what, this isn't okay, because I was created just as they were. I deserve respect. Who I am matters. And I think for a lot of us, we adopt that be the bigger person persona. Many of us do. Oh, I have to be the bigger person in this situation. And yet we're constantly being pounded into a pile of rubble because we're too busy trying to be the bigger person rather than setting boundaries, rather than asserting ourselves firmly. And so for me, I think in my early 20s, I was too busy trying to be the bigger person because we're taught, well, you just need to be the bigger person and walk away. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that. I'm saying that sometimes being the bigger person opens the door to more disrespect. So if you find yourself in that position, rethink that I need to be the bigger person persona. Rethink that. And so for me, when I did step out of that, I'm no longer going to be the bigger person persona, and I said what it was that I needed to say, things changed and conversations went a whole lot better. Relationships improved, and those relationships that didn't weren't my relationships. And I simply just released them and let them go. But it's very, very, very important that we learn to stand up for ourselves, even if we lose people. Because when we lose people, that opens the door for awesome, amazing, loving, and kind people of truth to enter our space. And so my experience also taught me, when I did learn to stand up for myself, that people treat us how we allow them to. So people treat you how you allow them to treat you, my friend. So if you allow them to disrespect you, guess what's going to happen? They're going to disrespect you. And if you don't put your foot down and say, no, I am worthy of respect and you will no longer disrespect me, it's going to continue happening. So I urge you to find the courage to stand up for yourself, because once you find the courage, you find freedom. So those were the 4 steps that you can take to start asserting yourself firmly, to start standing up for yourselves in times that you need to stand up for yourself. But I want to leave you with 2 affirmations. I want you to say them. They are going to help you greatly when it comes to starting the process of standing up for yourself. Affirmation 1 is, I have the strength and confidence to stand up for myself and advocate for my beliefs. Because you do have the strength and the confidence to stand up for yourself and advocate your beliefs. And affirmation number 2, my voice matters, and I dare to speak my truth with integrity and grace. Because your voice does matter, and you have all the courage within you to speak your truth with integrity and grace. So there you have it, my friends. 4 steps that you can take to start standing up for yourself. I'm author and healer Katie Gates, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting on? Hit the subscribe button now. Also give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me with this whole algorithm mumbo jumbo. It helps pushes the video out there to more people that may need help learning how to assert themselves. So definitely give this video a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video, and that's going to be very often from now on. So until next time, bye-bye.